Your real name is Walt Disney. Hard growing up with a name like Walt Disney.
It was fun growing up. Most people smile at that name. I mean, think about it. Would you frown if you heard Walt Disney? Most people give me the doggy head tilt. It wasn't as difficult as growing up with a very dominant sister, which is the reason I went into the SEAL teams, to kind of get my manhood back, if you will.
So you had to. So I heard somewhere along the way that she could take you as a kid.
So that's not, well, as a kid, up to, I remember, let's not go there. Let's not go there.
So the answer is yes.
The year I was inducted was 1987. Went in April and went through Navy basic, and then their basic medical training, which they call hospital corpsman, which is really confusing. And then I went to BUDS, which stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. That's 6 months long. Then you go to jump school. And then I went to SEAL Team 3. I was there for 5 years. At that point, I was trained as a sniper. My primary rating or identifier was that of medic. So it's very confusing because, yes, I was a SEAL and a medic. It's kind of like a little more.
Because this is about, as you know, PTSD in the military.
Right.
And you're also a therapist.
And now I'm a therapist.
Would you say that you qualify PTSD because of what you saw in war?
So I have a diagnosis of PTSD. Let's clarify, PTSD doesn't just come from war. It comes from seeing or being engaged in a life-threatening situation. I could watch a bank robbery and get the effects of post-traumatic stress. I could be held at gunpoint and not get post-traumatic stress. It is a matter of perception. So,
Of the individual.
Of the individual, and everybody's different. Everybody reacts different to different situations. Our society, David, is growing out of the paradigm that we once held that if you bent to stress, you were weak. And that's just not the case. I put enough weight on you, you're gonna bend or break.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Sure.
When we work out and we stress our muscles actually break down and they're sore for the next 2 or 3 days. But we can get stressed to failure. That doesn't mean we die. It means that muscle might get torn or a tendon might become inflamed and need more attention. And that's what a therapist does. Therapy is from a Greek word therapia, which simply means to attend to. So all I'm going to do is attend to this inflammation. In this case, it's inflammation of the soul or tearing of the soul, which is something that really most people incur just on different levels. Is PTSD true? Somebody breaks into your house. Every time you come into the house, you're going to be really wary of somebody in here, right? That is post-traumatic stress. We have to understand it as a continuum. When does it get to the point that it disorders our life? From a professional mental health standpoint, the authority that we go off of refers to it as post-traumatic stress disorder. It's creating disorder in our life, nightmares, hypervigilance, difficulty functioning society, difficulty in relationships.
So you said that you suffer from PTSD and the things that you witnessed in the military. Mm-hmm. What did you suffer from? What did you carry, and how long did you carry it?
So
or do you still carry it?
Yes, and yes. Okay. The things that impacted me were the loss of life. Okay. In particular, I had a swim buddy. When I was in basic SEAL training, we swam for 5.5 nautical miles. That's 6.12 statute miles. That's a 10K in the open ocean. And after about 4 hours, he was so drained, he became hypothermic. I was the last one to hear him speak. I carried that for a long, long time.
He did die.
He did die. John Tomlinson, yes. And when I would recall that event, I could taste seawater. I had a sense in my being of unworthiness.
Because you didn't save his life.
Because I didn't save his life. I was a corpsman and I was supposed to save his life. But I carried the impact on who I was, whether I was worthy or not, deep inside for a long, long time. And it wasn't until, so that was 1988. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until 2012, 13, that I actually engaged in the therapy that I practice, EMDR.
25 years later.
About 25 years later, that I actually released the weight and the impact of that. I don't taste seawater anymore.
Memory never goes away.
The memory does not go away. We're supposed to learn from memories, right? But this had a, shall we say, a narrative or commentary on my competence, worth, or lovability as a person. And that's the impact of trauma, stress, when we're overstressed.
You've seen the interview I did with Dr. Jean Moretto,
Right,
And
right,
she
right,
explained EMDR because she uses it too.
Right.
But I want to hear your unique perspective of
Yeah.
how it worked. You use it, but it worked for you personally.
Right. So each time I would recall that event, David, I would be living it. I would be the actor in the scene again.
You were
See it
right
all over
there.
again.
You were right there.
And with EMDR, it says, okay, let's take that scene and let's hold it out here. You're not an actor, you're an audience now. And then when we do that, we stimulate the brain bilaterally. And so what it does, instead of having that memory stuck in the emotion, it says, hey, left brain, let's get you involved in this. And then we put it together, and then we get this objective perspective that, okay, I did the best I could. And then it releases that dark weight that can come from those things. And when I work with veterans, because I work with a lot of them, especially in this one program, Warriors Ascent, where we allow them to take an objective look at some of those things in life. We've learned from the past that we can't do it alone, and we need people to come back and help us clean that off. At the end of it, people's faces are different.
Are they?
They look different. Totally. We had one guy that came through and he looked like Droopy Dog. His glasses were down to here. And he took a picture of himself the day after Warriors Ascent. He looked like an 8-year-old boy. He had rosy cheeks. This was a guy who was 66 years old.
Wow. Vietnam?
Vietnam veteran, Silver Star winner.
Wow.
And he goes, I didn't know. I didn't know that this could happen. I just drank hard and worked hard. And until I came to this, and he said, David, this saved my life. One of the effects of PTSD is isolation. There's a lot of what they call dual diagnosis. People do a lot of drinking and smoking pot or doing whatever drugs they can to numb this terrible pain that's going on in their souls. And when they do that, they isolate, which is just the opposite of what they need. We have to have community. And this is one of the messages I want to get out. If you're hurting, bring it to community. A load shared is half the load. A joy shared is twice the joy. So bringing that community, because that community can speak truth into that fearful mind when it's flaring up, it's all hot. That's where we get stressed to failure.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Understood.
And my personal belief is that happens to most everybody that's in combat. It just doesn't get reported because culture says, don't be a wussy. Don't report it. And so I believe that it gets to everybody.
Part of being a soldier, part of being a cop, part of being a first responder. You're tough.
Yeah.
I'm protected.
Take it. And we also need to get back and tend to those wounds to recover. I just had a guy tell me, he goes, Walt, I'm a human being. Whoa. And I can feel again. I haven't told somebody I love him in 42 years.
Ooh.
He goes, this saved my life. It saved my life. And it doesn't have to be some tragic end. There is a way to relieve this discomfort, okay? But when we get rid of that heat and people go back to their families, there is such an effect. The kids see daddy or mommy with joy again.
Wow.
They get their mommies and daddies back.
Wow.
And you want to talk about an emotional orphanage?
That sends me shivers.
Yeah. when you see a child that has been reunited with their parent after being orphaned through PTSD, it is so fulfilling. And we, at Warriors Ascent, we have a unique opportunity for our alumni to come back and serve and participate in this community. And the kids come around, and you see the kids. And I'm trained to pay attention to kids and systems, right? But it doesn't take somebody trained to see, wow, that kid's a joyful, healthy kid.
Sure.
If you're out there and you're suffering from PTSD, hypervigilance, you can't sleep, don't feel safe, too much booze, too much alcohol, too much pornography, it's not uncommon. There are people who have gone through it and know how to help you through it. You're gonna have to do the work, but they'll be there with you. This kind of connection, this we-ness that we get from our buddy who sticks by our side, that's called an alliance. They're bonds that can't be broken. We experience them in our military experience, in our law enforcement, first responder. Somebody's got our back. We don't do this life alone. And there's a number of people out there who truly, truly want to see you flourish and never die.